Hello, dear friends, beautiful people, EEA family.
Hi there. This is our third try.
Yeah, and just going to apologize straight up front because it seems like I was up every couple hours last night, so a little bit punchy, and then we've had a very packed schedule today.
We are pretty tired, but we got to do this. This is part of us reaching you guys, giving you guys the information on how we see things.
Yes, and just also covering what's going on out there, and perhaps why it's going on out there, at least from everything that we have observed. And we may not always agree. We may agree to disagree, and then there are some that may disagree to disagree.
There's that. There's always that.
There is. New Orleans without power for weeks, maybe as long as a month in some spots. And it is toasty. First off, it's always toasty. As we're new to the area where we're in, and we're not too far off from that area. And it does remind me of being in Columbia, South Carolina, where the temps, it seems, for 3 months, it's 95 pretty much every day with extremely high humidity.
It's just flat hot.
It is, and you got to bring multiple shirts.
Yes.
Now, if you're in New Orleans, I don't know what you're going to do with the multiple shirt thing, because how are you going to clean them? I guess the old-fashioned way. You don't have to. You can just take a bucket out to the street, I guess, and wash them in the street, and then just stick them up and hope that it gets dry somehow.
Eventually.
It's crazy, but this is what we've been talking about. And, we have our family member, Weed Me, that for the 4 years they've been with the channel, they keep saying, get out of New Orleans. You got to get out of New Orleans. Well, this is why. And New Orleans is a wonderful place. I have a family member that's moved down there in the 80s from Connecticut, still there. He loves it. Lost his house in Katrina, lived in federal FEMA housing for a year, but decided to stay because he loves New Orleans.
You would have to.
Yes, and many people do, and they don't want to leave. Yeah, the heat can be very, very dangerous without AC. As you see these temps, 96, 97, New Orleans, 99, 95 in Gulfport, Baton Rouge, about the same, 99, 98. Look over Lake Charles, 101, 102. Thank goodness people up in Shreveport, 106 and 103. Now that is brutal when you're talking such high humidity. But it's all brutal when you don't have AC, right?
Oh, yeah, that's horrible.
And also, you don't have a means of refrigeration. Now, many people out there, we've seen the writing on the wall and have gotten generators. But if you're going to be without power for 30 days, that's a lot of gas. And that just gets me thinking about dual purpose or dual fuel, because they do have generators that'll run on gas or propane. And if you do have a propane tank, a big propane tank, then you might be just fine. You really might be just fine. Of course, probably take 5,000-6,000 watts minimum to run a house. And, you're going to run through a lot of fuel. Then you add into the equation, nothing's running because so much stuff's underwater. It's wild. 1 million people without power, as Ida ravaged southeast Louisiana on Sunday. It's going to take a while to get this back to normal, and let's hope there's no more storms that roll through.
I know, and let's send these folks our energy for them, because this has got to be difficult and hot and miserable and wet.
Dangerous.
Yes.
Very, very dangerous. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards spoke with reporters at a press conference, said following Hurricane Ida, it might take upwards of 30 days to restore power to parts of the state. And he's not satisfied with the timeline to restore power, adding the situation is very dangerous, requested that those who evacuated don't return home. And boy, that brings back flashbacks of Irma. And it was weird because, decided to go. And so had just moved into a house in Sarasota. Didn't really want to leave it. I just had basically finished putting up a like a storage unit outdoors. It stayed perfectly. There was absolutely no damage, zero damage to the house. So I feel like that was protection that we had from above, because all around on that street, you saw just trees down everywhere and damage everywhere. And, when Irma came, it took like 10 to 12 hours for us to get out of Florida from Sarasota. It shouldn't take even close to that, to get to the Alabama line. And didn't stop till I ended up in Santa Fe, and then just did a little camping in Santa Fe. And it was actually cool at night there. As we look at the map to see all the areas without power, this is a very, very serious situation. Obviously, we want to send all our love and prayers to them, as you have so many people that are going to be without power for a long period of time. This is, as it says here, it's a massive challenge. As of early Monday, 216 substations, 207 transmission lines, more than 2,000 miles of transmission lines out of service. And one transmission tower, it spans the Mississippi, had withstood Hurricane Katrina, but it was knocked down this time. It did not make it. 150-mile-an-hour winds. This is a big one that we had seen here. Again, our prayers go out to everybody. You got to be so careful in these times. There's so much that's always seeming to come after us in these times.
Yeah, you have to be careful on many different levels, because spirits are low, and like literally low, and entities take advantage of that. So you have to really up your game when it comes to your spiritual practice when things are like this.
Absolutely. Mississippi Highway collapses 30 feet deep, killing 2, injuring 10. This is wild. And again, this is after Ida blew through the area. And there's video here. The hole is about 30 to 60 feet deep. Long, and 20 to 30 feet deep. That's huge. 7 vehicles were basically involved going into that hole. Torrential rain may have caused the collapse. Drivers may not have seen that the roadway in front of them just simply disappeared. Look at that. Can you imagine driving along and then just, whoa, that's scary stuff. 8 inches of rain fell in the area.
Wow.
And this is a area that's, very, very well traveled. And I just wanted to bring this up. This was a few days earlier. Looks like the Grand Canyon, you had a bean field collapse and fall 25 feet overnight in rural Minnesota, baffling farmers and experts. And that looks more like what we see out in New Mexico.
It does. It really, really does. Just how the earth just sort of drops.
And this is because of the extreme drought. So we see both situations can do it. Never had seen anything like it. And the farmers say just couldn't make sense of what happened. It fell 2 stories. This black bean field fell 2 stories. So it looked like the Grand Canyon. Just sloped straight down.
I know. What do you do with that? That's pretty horrible.
And how about another sign over here? Unique impact crater lake mysteriously disappears. The water all just went underground. So what's really going on with the Earth, guys? Big changes. Big changes going on. This is almost a perfectly round-shaped lake that they think was the result of an asteroid impact. And it just rapidly drained and was gone.
Wow, somebody must have pulled the plug.
Yeah, right? Meanwhile, we have huge chunks of ash falling from the sky. South Lake Tahoe evacuates. Before and after pictures, you can't see much on the after. And this Caldor fire is still growing. It's only 15% contained. This reminded me of what it looked like when our last trip back to Nevada, which, we still have a tiny little piece of Nevada that, just hanging on. We're going to wait and see, when Edgar Casey's prediction happens and the Pacific comes all the way in, we might have beachfront property.
We might have some really nice property.
We really might, if we hang on to it, could end up being beachfront, that's for sure. As you see the ash falling there.
Wow.
Wildfires in the West. This is, again, we were having another discussion with another family member today that we've talked about it before. The fact that, there's no perfect place. Now, they're in California and pretty close to a major population center. And just coming to grips with, God, it's so tiring to move, but do I move? Do I stay or do I go now?
Yeah, I mean, they're really struggling with that. They're just not sure. They're weighing their options, reweighing their options, and everybody's situation is so unique and different that that's what you have to do. And then you have to refine those weighing of options.
Okay, so today's quiz, I referenced an old song from the 80s, Do I Stay or Do I Go Now? What group did it? And the lines are perfect for talking about earth changes and all the manufactured, geoengineered earth changes as well. If I stay, there may be trouble. If I go, it may be double.
That's right. That's right.
So what do we do? What do we do? Especially when we enjoy our life in certain areas.
Right.
We know the politics of California is one thing, but a lot of people love California. They just love the weather. Like Cindy said, she loved the weather when she lived in California.
I did. I just couldn't handle so many people. The energy was too much.
Yes. And the energy was too much for me being, only 30 miles away from New York. So had to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Newly discovered island is the closest to land, closest land to the North Pole. Now, we had seen new islands forming off the coast of Japan. We know there's going to be all new land coming up. And so this one caught people by surprise. They had to just take a double check, remeasure. This is the farthest north that there is any land, and this is off the coast of Greenland. Tiny little island. They don't know if it's going to make it or not, or if it'll just be a thing in history. The other thing I just wanted to mention too, there was a case. Be very, very careful in the water if you're in, say, Louisiana right now, or other areas that have flooding, and you're in the South. There was a case of a gentleman that was chest deep in water, and they saw a gator come and got his arm and took his arm straight off, and then he disappeared. Think about that. There are so many gators in the South, and now you don't know what's swimming in that water. There was a case, too, of flooding in Texas, real bad flooding. I want to say it was in the Dallas area, and it flooded so bad between this gentleman's house and his barn that he had to go wading through knee-deep water. There's a power line exposed, and he ended up getting electrocuted. So you got to be so careful with all these possibilities. You don't know what's in that water. Right. There could be debris that got swept down. There could be something that's razor sharp. There could be all sorts of snakes, poisonous and non-poisonous, as well as gators. You just have to be extra cautious. Mm-hmm. So G2 moderate geomagnetic storm watch in effect. The geomagnetic field expected to be quiet to unsettled on the 31st due to delayed anticipated passage of the August 26th coronal mass ejection. So delayed. What delayed it? Is there some sort of traffic cop out there? Say, hey, no. Mr. Musk says you must wait. Okay, yes. Let's get the Anunnaki fleet through. Okay, now you could come.
Yes, planetary cosmic cops.
Yes. And G2 moderate storm levels are forecast for September 2nd due to anticipated arrival of the August 28th CME, combined with the CME from filament that disappeared from near center meridian around 1800 UTC on the 28th. Yeah, we have to be prepared for the inevitable grid downs, which can be sporadic first in different areas, eventually becoming more and more common. And, another discussion we were having was, what do I do? Like, say you do have money. Some people are looking for investments. Obviously, money sitting in the bank doesn't bring you back anything, especially when we're heading towards hyperinflation. I agree with our friend David over at Adapt 2030. First thing you should do is try to make sure you have at least a few years worth of food. Years. And the guides reiterate this with us too. They say if you want to avoid a certain procedure, you know, we could go backwards, XAV, right? I think that's okay going backwards. We'll see.
Yep.
Then you better be self-sufficient, and you better be prepared to not be able to go to the movies, go shopping, go take in a sporting event, maybe even go food shopping.
Yeah.
And again, timeline-wise, perhaps all the way to 2024, 2025. This is what we have gotten. I know there's so many people out there that follow certain sources that are constantly saying, don't worry, Gesara, Nasara, it's right around the corner. It's happening next month. And then next month happens. It didn't happen. Well, it's happening in 3 months. 3 months come by. It still hasn't happened. Keep putting out the date farther and farther. Don't worry, it's coming. Don't worry, Camelot's coming. Don't worry, you can put that out because you want to put people's hopes up. But at the same time, are you doing them a disservice when the hope is founded in something that's not really going to happen? So, again, look at the power structure on the planet. Look at what's happening. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We have to endure. Actually, what we have gotten from the guides is that the toughest part of this whole journey, we are just setting our feet onto that part of the pathway right now. Everything up to this point, sure, it's been pretty tough. Since 2017, all the earth changes have ramped up a lot. And obviously, we do feel that there's an awful lot of augmentation that has been there as part of why, besides some natural things as well. But really now we are truly getting into the thickest of the thick of things.
We are. And it's so important right now to understand that, there's not going to be someone riding up on a white horse to save you. You need to prepare. You need to be ready for yourself. Look at your home. Look at your situation. Look at you. What do you need? And have that. And don't have expectations that somebody else is going to do it.
And I would recommend you take an inventory of what you have, because you might not have what you think you have. As I had shared, we actually suffered a lot more losses than we thought from our time on the road, the time when we had stuff in New Mexico in storage that got ravaged by mice. It really surprised us. So we didn't have anywhere near what I had really thought we had. And so we've gone ahead and, bit the bullet and, got more stuff coming now while it's still available. Because whatever you're going to buy now, you're probably going to pay 30% higher in just a matter of months, if not maybe a year out. I know I paid 30% higher for a couple of items than I had just ordered 9 months earlier. So that's a big increase. That's a huge increase when you think about it. How much, again, is your money making in the bank? You're better off being prepared, having supplies, having plenty of seeds, and then get used to saving seeds. Maybe have some bags you could, just label and put down something like organic green pepper, organic yellow squash. And, save the seeds from the organic stuff that you can reuse. You could see how diabolical the big term picture has been when we see that the majority of stuff out there is, your, I just thought of that. Did you realize that GMO backwards is OMG?
That's a good one. I like it. I like it.
Your oh my God, produce and vegetables are not going to provide for you later on down the road. Yep. GMO OMG. That was good.
That was very good.
Yeah, it just hit me. It's like that's like a big joke on us. When you think about it, it's another one of those big jokes on us. And again, they don't want us self-sufficient. So we have to be self-sufficient, because if we're dependent on the state for everything, and universal UBI is coming. You guys know that. That's part of the system. all part of the system. Total dependence on the system leads to absolute total control and no freedom at all.
Mm-hmm.
Zero freedoms. Leads to assimilation in the boar. As we see Meteor fireball seen over Pennsylvania and 6 other states, there's actually been a lot of fireball activity. It's never stopped. There's so much of it. We just don't always report on every single one. But here you see 41 reports, Indiana, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Ontario, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia. Over here, Alabama, 7 other states, Alabama, Arkansas, Illinois, Kentucky, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee. That was actually Missouri. And Texas and New Mexico with another. So yeah, oh yeah, we're still in a busy area. There's still a lot of stuff up there. There's a lot of ships up there. There's a lot of ETs up there. You know, we have reptilians up there. We have Draco up there. And I still see comments, and not so much on this channel, because 97 to 98% of the people that we get, for the most part, are the same people, because they suppress the channel purposely. So we don't get so many new people because they don't want to recommend us, because they don't want to wake other people up. But every now and then you get somebody that says things like, well, you know, aliens aren't real. And, you know, these little things that just, to me, it's, you know, what can you say? That's like,
Well, you know, just you can't say anything. You just have to go, okay. And it's like agree to disagree and, you know, help those who wish to be helped, help those who are willing to listen.
yeah, it's the case. We have to wake up those that are, well, they're able to be awakened. There's going to be some that are not able to be awakened. And again, it goes to the fact that, like we've shared, 2/3, 70% of the people on the planet, this is all they've known. They've only understood 3D, 4D. They've only had lives on Earth. But that leaves about 30% to 35% that have had lives on other planets. They've had lives in other densities, higher densities. They've come down to these densities to help guide and teach people. Again, we're talking about starseeds, wanderers. You know, there's a lot of beings out here just volunteering to be here, to go through this stuff out of pure compassion. Pure compassion. And you could see it. So, you know, these beings are the ones that have that inherent knowing. Oh yeah, you know, of course there's aliens. There's not just life here. That's kind of a concept that is only brought about by the system. They want you to think this is it. You only live once. This is all there is. Better do what we say.
Mm-hmm.
Better not question. Yours is not to question. Why? Right? It's just like an infantryman, you know, yours is but to do or die and come back and die and come back and die and come back and never escape the wheel. Well, you know, we all had a free pass to escape in this time. This is a huge time of ascension. And one of the things that came through from Isis last night, set, you know, in her native language, is that ascension goes basically at a personal pace, and then there's the totality of the planet as well. But it starts individually. At some point, when the Earth translates, when the Earth shifts, because she is going to shift, then those that are on the Earth, you're either ascending with her or your physical body will not make it. And then you'll end up having to incarnate on another 3D planet somewhere else. So that will be the eventuality. But there's always the opportunity for the individual to ascend.
Always, you know, but you have to take good care of yourself. You have to take good care of your temple. You have to eat good food. You have to put good quality stuff in your mind. You can't just watch a bunch of garbage and eat a bunch of garbage. That's not going to assist in any ascension.
No. And as Cindy was saying, this is the other component that they've been giving us, is try to get as healthy as possible.
Yes.
Because it's only going to make things better for you. Every single person is going to have ascension symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person will have ascension symptoms, not necessarily at the same time. Now, when we get a CME blasting us, a greater portion of the people will probably feel all sorts of things going on because it's gonna trigger evolutionary changes. The farther your body is away from harmony, the more painful it's going to be. If you are on all suits of big old McDonald had a farm, that's going to make things much worse. If you are taking in tons of high fructose corn syrup, processed foods, fast foods, it's going to make things much worse. Much because they're not harmonious with good health. And the same thing if we're taking in all sorts of, nonstop horror movies where people are inflicting all sorts of brutality on other people, that lowers our vibration too. There's only so much of that we can take. And again, that's going to make things more difficult as well. Same thing with certain music. When we see, Dr. Emoto's experiments on water, it shows you there is a purpose for everything. Sometimes we need to get our adrenaline up. You do need that cortisol to get you out of life or death, or to get you to perform at a much higher level. But if you stay in that side of the autonomic nervous system where you're always in the fight or flight, it's going to burn out your adrenals. It's going to cause a lot of oxidation in your body, and it's going to wear you out. So we need to shift into the rest and digest as much as possible so we can actually recoup. And we see rare snowfall in South Africa caused by intense cold fronts. So we're look at this, the snowman's driving.
It's cute.
What we're seeing is the extremes being more extreme, and we've noticed that as time has gone on. Rare August snowfall, blanket swaths of Chile's Atacama Desert. This doesn't always happen. It's not always a typical event, but then again, these things that aren't typical, they are. And this is what I was talking about being careful in the water here. You see a man attacked by a large gator walking through the floodwaters in Louisiana. Now he's missing. Man's wife witnessed the attack and went to get help, but came back to find her husband was no longer on the steps of the home where she had left him.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Absolutely. And watch your little ones and watch your pets.
Yes.
Okay, now we go over to the real hard to stomach part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The cryptic stuff that we got to be cryptic about.
Yes, as we see JB calls, how could you? Yeah. Well, the Kabul evacuation extraordinary success, claiming it marks the end of an era of the U.S. trying to remake countries militarily. All right, here's where they give us a little bit of truth and, a lot of, but they don't tell you the whole story.
Right.
So has the U.S. been trying to remake countries militarily? I think it's pretty obvious by this time to anybody that's fairly well educated. Yeah, we grew up in an era where it's, all American, like apple pie, Chevrolet, volunteering, going off to serve the country. Let's join the military. I almost joined the Navy with my best friend. If it wasn't for my very first girlfriend, I would have. I would have been with him. And he ended up in the Navy for 20 years and then working for one of those alphabet soups thereafter. Still is working for one of them. And he's a changed person. He's not the same person I grew up with and, absolutely loved. Those organizations have a way of changing people, so to speak. And I'm getting off on a tangent there. But most definitely, when we look at the endless wars, and you realize the wars aren't meant to be won, there's too much money to be had, too many resources to be controlled by just having them go on endlessly. Think about the money that is made in some of these industries. Just think about alone the bandages.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the bullets. Think about the bulletproof vests. Think about the helmets. Think about all the high-tech equipment. Think about the drones. We could go on and on, with all the money that is constantly churning because of the endless wars. So this is the end of the U.S. trying to remake countries militarily. Does that mean peace on Earth is going to happen? No, because they're just shifting to another country. They're just shifting to another locale to base their whole base of operations out of. And, we know which that is ultimately. And let's go in reverse again, and we'll just say PCC.
Mm-hmm.
PCC. You guys know, we just put it up to a mirror and you see what is the plans. And so, the remaking of countries will continue. And anybody that especially is looking to get out of a certain monetary system, any countries, God forbid, you want to get out of a monetary system that's being used globally, then you might find your countries all of a sudden got issues. You might find a lot of boots on the ground in that country. And $1 trillion, right? Think about it in this term. After 20 years, more than $1 trillion and a cost of nearly 2,500 American lives. Well, you're looking at that, they're telling you an expense of $1 trillion to the U.S. taxpayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the companies that are on the receiving end, that's an awful lot of profits.
And that's all they're worried about.
And again, it's because the monetary system controls everything.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have the Taliban basically, they're doing a photo op, a photo shoot, all dressing up like U.S. soldiers now, marching, all different poses. Look at us, look at us.
Yep.
Yes, that was a gift. And there's a reason for the gift as well. Again, many people have equated the U.S. with Babylon the Great. And it hit me, but then it also hit me, you could go out farther too, because the fate that they have planned for the U.S. is going to be one that they have planned for pretty much all the NATO countries. And when we go to that certain .com that rhymes with beagles,
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk in terms of dogs. I had a beagle. That was my first dog.
Mine too. Isn't
Really?
that cool? Yeah, that's great.
She was the only dog I ever had that bit me.
Oh, sorry.
Purposely.
Oh, no.
She was not so nice, honestly. The
Aw.
only dog I ever had that was not so nice.
My beagle was named Sweetie Pie.
Sweetie Pie. Very nice.
Yes.
Well, the beagle numbers, again, show massive losses. And you might want to change that B to a D. Massive losses for the NATO countries. There's a reason for all that. We're seeing it manifest right now. Now, this is a much busier map. As we see, we have 3 groups over there in the Pacific, very, very close to Japan, 2 over in the Indian Ocean, Persian Gulf area, and then we have one that looks to be close to Cuba, and one off the coast of the eastern United States, and one off the coast of the western United States. And when we look at total deployed ships, it's 111, which is the highest I can remember seeing in quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, curious. There's been so much deception going on with hiding things, and now things are out in the open a little bit more, perhaps. Or it could be counter. Who knows? Curveballs always coming in. As we see, Americans face a nightmare scenario, record high home prices, record high rents. And, people are having a hard time closing. Our realtor had called us up and said, hey, you know what? I had somebody surpass your record.
Yeah.
Longest ever closed. But you know why? Well, look at these rents. The rents are going through the roof, right? And who's buying up so much? Well, these real estate groups, which are owned by the ultra rich, because they're buying up houses because, we're not going to own anything. They will. And they think we're going to be happy with it. They're going to be surprised.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be happy with it. But again, this creates an opportunity again for a lot more wealth, a lot more power, a lot more control. It's just so obvious what's going on. Beyond obvious. More and more people are waking up, but we've really got to wake up a lot more still. We have a lot of work ahead of us as far as that goes. Aluminum prices hit decade high amid China's drive to cut carbon emissions. And you see the same stories over and over. You know, they don't care about carbon emissions. They don't care about toxicity. They don't care about how much they're poisoning the planet. If they did, we wouldn't have the system in place. And again, this all goes back to an imbalance between the divine masculine and divine feminine. And I know that goes over some people's heads. Other people get it immediately when they recognize that we couldn't have a system like this if we were truly in contact with our physical mother, which is the earth that we're walking on. Mysterious fever kills 68 people in a week in India. There's always these new diseases popping up everywhere that you always got to keep an eye on. And you really got to keep an eye on labels, guys. You know, now, even the way they word this, fructose in the diet expands the surface of the gut and promotes nutrient absorption. Well, nutrient absorption is good. But when they look at, and again, not all fructose is the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge difference. You know, for one, feeding mice high fructose corn syrup leads to a lot of cancer, leads to a lot of obesity, it leads to premature death and weight gain, this whole vicious cycle. And they even go down here and they talk about feeding regular fruit. It's not the same condition at all. They even talk about that, but the way they put it up in the headlines like makes you think, oh wow, I better not have the organic strawberry. I better not have that organic blueberry, which is so full of nutrients. Berries are so nutrient dense. They are something most of us should be eating every day. And hence why we have 18 berry bushes.
Yes.
For the future. And actually, there's a couple of blackberries out there. There's some strawberries out there. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a lot more next year, as long as, you know, we don't get flooded away or the vicious GMO mosquitoes released by Mr. Bill don't make their way over this way and devour everything.
Yeah, we gotta get some bird nets maybe though.
I think one of the worst things that ever happened to us is supersizing. I mean, it's just crazy. Do you want to supersize that?
Oh, I know.
Oh, well, yeah, sure.
And then
give me more toxicity. Give me more death.
Yeah, we paid for our own death for 70 cents.
70
cents or less.
It's only 70 cents. Well, well, think about it in terms of time. Remember we were just talking about an article that was saying if you eat some of the junk foods out there, like one junk food meal might equate to taking 20 minutes off your life. Whereas if you ate like a healthy salad or something else that was all organic and healthy, you might add 5 minutes to your life. Mm-hmm. Think about it in those terms instead of 70 cents. And I see it all the time where people that are in the category where they definitely need to lose weight will say, I can't afford to eat healthy. You can't afford not to eat healthy. Mm-hmm. Just eat less of the good stuff, because even if you look at a carrot, and you might have a GMO carrot that's twice as big as the organic carrot, the nutrition in the organic carrot is going to be higher. Mm-hmm. Even though you're eating something that's twice the size. Think in terms of nutrients with your food. The Hippocratic Oath, right? Well, yeah, Hippocrates talked about let your food be your medicine. So why taking stuff that's cancer promoting? It just boggles my mind. And even on, you know, like watching athletes that are grabbing Powerades and Gatorades and stuff like that, or, you know, some of the Monster drinks, some of the things that have high caffeine content and high sugar content. I just don't understand how, you know, don't you understand the long-term ramifications, what it does to your body, creating inflammation. Inflammation is the root cause of all disease. And not only that, evidence has emerged that the small intestine acts as the gatekeeper for the mammalian body against harmful effects of fructose. And again, they should be more specific. Mm-hmm. The main one being the aberrant accumulation of fat in the liver. Moderate amounts of fructose, for example, those ingested when consuming fruits, while they're taken up and broken down by the intestinal cells. Excessive amounts, such as those that might be ingested after drinking a sugary beverage, overwhelm the intestine's absorptive capacity. And the fructose either leaks into the bloodstream to reach the liver intact or spills over from the small intestine and reaches the colon. Do you wonder why so many people have SIBO? And if you don't know the term SIBO, it's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And after having worked in a clinic for many years of a naturopath, you see so many people have this. This is a big part why. There's too many simple sugars being taken into the body that are pure toxins. We had it all wrong going way back. When we're basically eliminating fats from our diet, but taking in all these simple carbs.
Well, I don't think that we had it wrong. We were paying attention to the controllers.
Well, the controllers gave us a line of,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you know what.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Poo-poo.
Yes, poo-poo.
Yes, we'll just stay there.
Okay.
So, again, if you want to ascend and you want to escape the 3D, 4D wheel, really diet is a critical thing. Absolutely critical. There's a connection between how far we can go and the condition of our body, and there's a direct connection between what we're taking in and our vibrational frequency.
Absolutely. And it's so important. So really treat your body like a temple, truly.
Yes, makes a huge difference. Huge. And so medicinal foods, I just wanted to mention this as well because, here's stuff that will not harm you and is actually, good tasting because we've gone through so many of the products. Thought the taste was always great. The quality is great. The people are great. They understand Ascension. They actually talk about Ascension. They talk about the pineal gland. So check out Medicinal Foods. When you use our link, it does support the channel as well. Use the coupon code EEA for an extra 5% off your order. And then as you fill up your cart at checkout, you get automatic discounts up to 25% off and free shipping. Lots of good stuff there. You got to take care of the body and recognize it is the temple of God, of Source. Mm-hmm. Because again, Source is in you. The true God, the true prime creator lies within all of its creations. And so your body is the temple for God. So we need to treat it as such.
Agreed.
Yep. As always, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Stay safe, stay prepared. God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.